Welcome to the swarm, the Dactylorhiza swarm of Southorpe Meadow. Good morning. Yes, welcome to our annual visit to this crazy place, but magnificent place all the same. Southern Marsh, common spotted, bit of early Marsh thrown in. The most incredible hybrids you'll ever see, with some of the flower markings that were just last year certainly completely off the page. So I'm sure it'll be another fantastic visit. Expectations are high, making sense of it. Southorpe Meadow at the end of the day, so it is a swarm. So let's get stuck in and see what Southorpe Meadow 2024 has to offer. For those who haven't suffered my previous Southorpe Meadow videos, of which there are many, a hybrid swarm basically means that they've been, the common spotted and the Southern Marsh in particular, have been crossing, producing hybrids. The hybrids have then been crossing with either of the parents or with other hybrids, and they've been doing this for decades, absolutely decades. And the net result are very complex combinations of those two, with some early Marsh thrown in as well, in my opinion. And they produce some magnificent plants, big plants, with great flower patterning, as you're going to see on this visit, I'm sure. And there are plenty of orchids here to see. There you go, a couple of Grandis hybrids to kick things off. I was going to say flower shape on the left is more distinctly Southern Marsh than the one on the right, which is more distinctly common spotted, but the markings are the same, and they've both got hollow stems. They're Grandis hybrids. Spotty leaves as well, of course. Always wonderful markings, always on these hybrids. Another Grandis hybrid with a hollow stem and spotted leaves, but always such clear, bold markings on all the Southorpe Meadow hybrids. A lovely trio of pure common spotted orchids. You don't get too many of these here. They're mostly messed up hybrids, but that's a very nicely marked family group of common spotted orchids. Very nice. Pale form of Southern Marsh orchid. There's no markings at all on the leaves, nothing whatsoever. Pure Southern Marsh, but they've all got reflexed flowers, so that's a common trait of Southorpe Meadow. You can see a lot of these where all the flowers are reflexed back, and I've often said, and probably will still hint, that there's been a bit of early Marsh influence on this plant, probably in the distant past. But there's no real other explanation for them all being reflexed like this, as is the case on many of the flowers in this meadow. Spotted leaves, Marsh orchid stem. This one is over 3 foot tall. This is a mighty big hybrid with a lovely big flower head that looks sort of classic Southern Marsh, but those markings with the loops on. I mean, if we didn't have spotted leaves, we'd be looking at this and thinking, oh, that's a sort of Wintoni hybrid between Southern Marsh and early Marsh. But unless you believe it's a three-way orchid, and I believe there are three-way orchids on this site, and why not? It's a Grandis hybrid. Lovely markings. We're starting to enter the ultra spot zone. As if it's anything like last year, you're going to see in a few moments' time the spots start going haywire, which they shouldn't really do with either Southern Marsh or common spotted, but this is a hybrid of the two. This is a Grandis, a very nice one too. Another stunner of a Grandis. Another one of those plain leaved, quite small this one, Southern Marsh orchids with heavily reflexed flowers. I mean, from a distance it's an early Marsh orchid, but it's not. But it's hard to believe that early Marsh hasn't been involved in this at some point. There's no early Marsh markings on the flowers really. It really fits the bill of Southern Marsh. It's just those strange flowers. Lovely markings. That is a common spotted orchid. Here we go. A couple of magnificent ultra spotty Southern Marsh orchids. There's no spots at all on the leaves. They are Southern Marsh orchids in theory, but yeah, in theory they shouldn't be spotted from left wing to right wing, but these are, and the central lobe's a little bit prominent as well for a Southern Marsh orchid. But as I say, there's no spots on the leaves. The stem is only slightly hollow. It's a bit of a mystery one, this, but there's plenty more mystery ones coming up. Just a fantastic set of markings on the flowers, really nice. Plain leaves, marsh orchid, stem, Southern Marsh flowers with what looked to me very, very, very distinctive early Marsh orchid markings. So to me that is a Wintoni hybrid. I can't see that it can be anything other than a Wintoni hybrid between Southern Marsh and early Marsh orchid. We are entering the spot zone, exactly where it was last year. This is nice. Again, Southern Marsh orchid. You know, everything below the flower is standard Marsh orchid. Everything on the flower, God knows, you know. But there's not enough there to say it's not a Southern Marsh orchid. They're just unusual Southern Marsh orchids. Got spotted leaves on this one. We have a stem that is woody, solid. Everything below the flower is common spotted orchid. When you get up here, a bit of everything in there. At the very least, you've got very, very strong lute, early Marsh style markings, and I'm tempted to say that is a Kernerorum hybrid between common spotted and early Marsh orchid. Can't see that it can be anything else. Common spotteds are looking good at Southorpe this year. There's not usually many here. I'm seeing quite a few common spotted, sorry, and yeah, they're very decent. Another of those head scratching Southern Marsh orchid flowers that are just massively reflexed, as per what you would expect on an early Marsh orchid. No spots on the leaves. It's either Southern Marsh or Southern Marsh with a bit of early Marsh mixed in. Almost unique to Southorpe these are, I think. Very strange. Another supposed Southern Marsh orchid in every respect, including the markings, but with the reflexing. And if you look at the I'm pointing my finger, which is not easy. Look at that one there at the very top. It's got those classic bunny's ears, as I call them, pointing straight upwards above the flower. That is early Marsh orchid. That's what you see on an early Marsh orchid. And yeah, whatever you want to call it, it's somehow a Southern Marsh, early Marsh, whether you want to call that as a Wintoni. I don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, you've got to. It's a cross between Southern Marsh and early Marsh. Maybe crossed back a multitude of times, but it's still in some form a Wintoni hybrid. That's not a classic Grandis hybrid, but Grandis hybrid is what it is. Hollow stem, spotted leaves. It's just a pale parent somewhere in there. It's Grandis hybrid though. Beautiful southern marsh orchid. And another one, southern marsh. Don't think I've ever seen one of these here before. Pure white common spotted orchid. It's a beauty as well. It really is pure white. Probably the best pure white common spotted I've seen this season, which isn't saying too much, but yeah, it's lovely. Really nice. Another lovely set of markings, as many of them now are now in this patch of Southorpe Meadow. And there's another one behind it. I'll just have a quick fly through. Wonderful, wonderful orchids. Spotted leaves, hollow stem, Grandis hybrid. Lovely markings, as ever. Spotted leaves, solid stem, common spotted orchid, and another nice one. Look at the reflexing on those flowers. Crazy. Southorpe Meadow weird southern marsh orchid. Spotty leaves. I'll just move this youngster out of the way. Distinctly hollow marsh orchid stem. Should be a Grandis. I think it is a Grandis, but it's got very reflexed flowers on it. This is one of those that you kind of think there's 3 different Dactylorhizas in here because there's some early marsh influence, and I tend to prefer the phrase influence rather than hybrid when I talk about early marsh in this site, because there's no early marsh grow here anymore. They clearly did grow here once. They're in the record books, I think as recently as 20 years ago. But I think there were hybrids back then that involved early marsh that have gone on to cross many times, primarily southern marsh or common spotted. I would suggest it's crossed many times back with southern marsh, so you end up with this primarily Grandis hybrid of southern marsh, common spotted, but still with that hint of that influence from an early marsh orchid causing that reflexing. Others have different opinions. It's just, you know, I've been coming here 10 years plus. I can't come up with an explanation better than that one. I think there are 3 Dactylorhiza hybrids involved in the creation of that magnificent orchid. Why not? Another nice big chunky spotted southern marsh orchid. None of these ultra spotted form that we saw last year as well as this year, none of them have anything other than perfect marsh orchid stems and no spots on the leaves, so there's no hint of anything else being involved. You've just got to put it down as a Southorpe Meadow spotty or ultra spotty southern marsh orchid, and they're fantastic. Spotted leaves, marsh orchid, hollow stem. In theory that's a Grandis hybrid. I mean it is. It's a Grandis hybrid. Bold markings, but almost unmistakable common spotted, womble faced markings. That's a Grandis hybrid. Very nice one too. Another Southorpe curly. Some of the mid-range ones on there are not so curled back as the others, and you can see quite clearly they are southern marsh flowers, but some of the older ones down the bottom that are finishing are well reflexed. People say, oh well, it's just because they're finishing, but it isn't, because up near the top they're still pretty fresh, still pretty newly opened, and they're opening reflexed. So there's more to it than just saying they're new flowers or old flowers. I welcome anyone's opinions on these. Very strange. Nice family group of common spotted orchids with Junior down the front. That's an interesting one. Again, plain leaves, Marsh orchid stem, nothing going on down there, and on all the others that are reflexed, you're sort of thinking Southern Marsh orchid, but this one has actually got quite distinct looped markings on there. If I flatten those flowers out, I'm absolutely sure they would look very much like early Marsh orchid sacks, for want of a different terminology in terms of the markings on the flowers. So I think this one might be a little bit more indicative of, dare I say, proof. Probably not indicative of early Marsh being involved. So it's a sort of reflexed Wintoni hybrid, I suppose. Just a little bit more evident than some of the others. What a glorious light pink thing. Ignore everything except the shape of the flower, and it's a common spotted orchid. It has got spotted leaves. I'm not sure about the stem, I'm not going to test it out. It's so slim, but I suspect it's a common spotted in every sense. But those markings look a little bit Southern Marsh to me, but I'm going to call that a common spotted, and it's a lovely one too. Very nice. Another nice common spotted. I think these are winning the day. It's unusual for Southorpe Meadow. They're usually completely overwhelmed by Southern Marsh and by hybrids, but there's a lot of common spotteds here this year, doing really well. These guys keep kicking off as I walk past saying, hey, you're shooting orchids but you ain't shooting us. That's because I don't like pyramidal orchids much. But here is a Southorpe Meadow pyramidal orchid. Now they'll leave me alone, hopefully. Fantastic group of Grandis hybrids. Stunning. Another nice common spotted. In fact, it's two common spotted, one rising up above the other, but clearly related. Very nice Grandis hybrid. Not seen too many of the spotted stunners that we saw last year, but this is a spotted stunner. And the thing that surprises me about this one is that it's got spotted leaves, it's got a solid stem, which means this is at least 99% certain to be a common spotted orchid. But you look at the flower shape, it doesn't look right. It looks more like a Southern Marsh type shape. Some people will be shouting out, oh, heath spotted orchid, but there's no heath spotted orchids here, nor has there ever been as far as I'm aware. So yeah, another weirdo, that one. Very nice though, very nice. Magnificent. Lovely group of common spotted orchids. I'm pretty sure I got these lot last year, but I'd never walked past this group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 common spotted orchids. Superb. A truly magnificent collection here of, well, you can see from the leaves, common spotted orchid. That's a breathtaking group. Lovely. Spots on the leaves, rock solid stem, common spotted shaped flowers unmistakably, but equally unmistakably those loop markings which are early marsh. That is as certain as I can be a Kernerorum hybrid between common spotted and early marsh orchid. Pretty certain about that one. That's a nice ultra spotty form of southern marsh orchid. Everything below the flower is pure southern marsh orchid, and that's what it is. Plain unspotted leaves, hollow stem, southern marsh orchid flower, very, very clear early marsh orchid markings. So that is a Wintoni hybrid. Again, pretty certain about that one. On a bit of a roll at the moment with these hybrids, and that's another one. That's another pure plain leaves, hollow stem, southern marsh colour palette at least, but those loop markings, in fact all the markings on those flowers are classic early marsh, which makes that a Wintoni hybrid again. It's unusual to be anywhere near certain at this site, but I'm pretty certain on that one. Just coming up towards the end of the really the last lane, as it were, that I walk up at this site. So we're coming towards the end now, but it always ends with a bang, this place, because there's like a hollow up here. And last year, for every year I've come here, it's been absolutely rammed with orchids. Not only rammed with them, but probably the best ones in the meadow. So I've got a bit of a buzz here that it's gonna be the same this season. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be. Just over this ridge. I'm going to make a fool of myself now because there'll be nothing there. But it's usually a fantastic sight. Wow, it is. Look at that. Brilliant. And there's going to be some real nice stuff in amongst this lot. I can promise you that. What a sight. Superb. Right, let's get amongst them and see what we got. It's like the elite of Southorpe Meadow come down here. If you're good enough, you qualify, you move down here with the elite squad. Grandis hybrids, these two. Brilliant. Another Grandis. More Grandis hybrids at their finest. One there, and an even better one just to its left. Bear with me. Look at that. Magnificent. Another Grandis, a bit lighter in colour. Looks like more of the same, but actually that is a common spotted orchid. Solid stem, spotted leaves, flower shape's good. Top quality common spotted orchid. Grandis hybrid. Lovely. A glorious riot of common spotted orchids. 4 identical stems, really nice. Another spotty Grandis. Lovely group of brilliantly marked Grandis hybrids. just to show that not all Grandis hybrids are rich purple in colour. There you go. I had to drag myself away from that bottom end of the field there because I probably showed you a quarter of what I could have shown you, but they're all pretty much the same, but magnificent, the same as it were. I'd never get bored of seeing those. Yeah, what a collection of orchids. I'm not going to run through everything I always do at this stage. You know, Southorpe Meadow is my local Kenfig. Just like Kenfig, it's a Dactylorhiza swarm and has been for decades. And when that happens, you just get things happening that, you know, they're not covered in textbooks, and it's very difficult to be definite about anything. And that was my mantra today, was don't talk in terms of definites or certains, because you end up making a fool of yourself. And I did talk about some definites, but very few, and I genuinely was definite about those. But they are just magnificent collections of mixtures, common spotted, southern marsh, and as far as I'm concerned, hints of early marsh. But really fantastic. They're past their best actually. We're probably about 70% through. If you say 50% is the midpoint peak for the season, we're probably at 70%. There's a lot of them that have gone over, so it's a good job I came this week and not next week, or otherwise I would have missed them. But absolutely brilliant collection. And I was going to say, if you've not been here before, get down here, but you're running out of days now. Certainly the next 2 or 3 days would be brilliant, but I think they'll be going over fast after that. But absolutely superb once again. Southorpe Meadow, take a bow. I hope you enjoyed some of that. Thanks for coming along and joining me on what is a whisper. It's nearly hot. Summers, I won't say early summers either because we're mid-June now, but yeah, it's a lovely hot summer's morning. Thanks for joining me. I'm not finished yet, so I will see you again hopefully in the next video.